The sun rising over the top of the distant mountains made them shine like polished copper, and Matthew Belfield held up a hand to shield his eyes from the glow. He felt a grin tugging at the corners of his lips and let it come. Things had turned so hard and sorrowful over the past few months. But finally, after everything that had happened, after all the trials he and his wife had faced, Matthew was daring to hope that their lives were taking a turn for the better. He stood in the valley and listened to the quiet of the place. It was the quiet that had made him pick this parcel of land to build their homestead on. Matthew remembered it clearly, climbing off his horse and wandering out across the plain for the first time, just walking, just listening. It was like he could hear the breathing of the earth itself, the gentle noise of the wind through the grasses. It was then he knew he was going to spend the rest of his life in this valley, carving a future out of the rough lands of the West. He turned slightly and looked back at the house. Celeste moved past one of the windows, not seeing him. Matthew was pleased to see his wife on her feet again. It was almost as if the sickness had never touched her. If not for him, if not for that travelling man, why then Matthew would be staring not at the woman he loved, but at her grave. The fellow hadn't asked for much, not much at all when you weighed the price against the life of Matthew's wife. She glanced out of the window and saw him looking back, threw him a smile. He tipped his hat in a shallow howdy, but as he did, he saw the smile slide away from his wife's face. She was looking out past him, off down the range. Matthew turned and stared out the same way. He saw the sign immediately, the wispy curls of trail dust etching up from the dirt road. Horses, then. 2 of them, and they were coming at a pace like the devil himself was at their heels. The riders slowed as they approached the Belfield house. Matthew studied the new arrivals and felt unsettled. They were gaunt figures, the pair, long coats, all dark and tight upon them, with a faint air that hung around, which recalled rotting meat. With a quick flourish, one of the men dismounted. For a brief moment, the homesteader's gaze dropped to the gun belt that rode low on the man's hips. A heavy, iron-grey weapon sat there in a fast-draw holster. Matthew licked his dry lips and cleared his throat. "This land is my property. Might I ask what it is you gentlemen want hereabouts?" "Looking," said the rider. His voice was thick with an accent that Matthew couldn't place. "Looking for a thief." "Is that right? Well, you're looking in the wrong place. We're law-abiding folks here, Mr. He trailed off. The man seemed to think about it for a moment. Finally, he pressed a thumb to his chest. "Cutter," he said. He nodded at his companion on horseback. "Tangle leg." The farmer forced a smile. "Well, Mr. Cutter, I can..."